believe it or not, in my day, hitchhiking was definitely socially acceptable. Hitchhiking to get somewhere was perfectly okay. You didn't worry about it. To see people standing by the side of the road, holding signs like in Canada saying Calgary, that was totally mainstream.
Did you hitchhike yourself?
Oh yeah, I did. So when I would hitchhike, but I would just hitchhike in the city. And I remember specifically to get to university from my house, I had to take 3 buses. What I would do is you had to be to your classes on time. And if I was on, the 3rd leg, standing on Bronson Avenue, way far to take 1 bus way down, and I'd look at my watch and I was late, you better believe I stuck my hand out. People would always stop. You'd always get students, or you'd jump in and you'd say, oh, I gotta get to Carleton. Or if you were closer, students would drop you. Oh yeah, I would only hitchhike if I was late.
And so you say people used to hitchhike. What do you think's changed? What is it that happened that, like, why don't we have that same hitchhiking culture today?
People look at each other differently. I want to say that people are more insular now. I feel people are more, they don't know their neighbors as much. They don't, if they don't know someone, their first impulse is not to trust them. Their first impulse is the opposite, to say, what is this person trying to get out of me? The other day, about a week ago, I went for a walk, and I was a few blocks from home, and it was middle of the day, and there were 2 toddlers on the sidewalk. They were about 5, and they had these little vehicles that they were on, cars, and they kind of were in my way, and I was smiling at them as I went by. Their moms were kind of sitting on steps talking, and I smiled at the moms, and one of the moms immediately got a little upset and said, oh, did he do something to you? Did he bother you? Immediately inferring, whilst with this stranger smile at me, like she thought I was sort of saying, smiling like as though to say, you really should be keeping an eye on those kids, but quite the opposite. I was merely a stranger smiling at someone in my neighborhood. That's all I was. But on the other end, it was inferred, oh, this is strange. What's going on? Do you see what I mean? And that's not everybody today, but that is definitely part of life today.
That's such an interesting way to put it. And I feel, though I haven't lived as long as you, obviously, I feel as though I've seen that change a bit myself. Just, I don't know if it's the rise of technology, because I definitely remember when I was a kid, there was no problem with me just riding my bike to school when I was pretty young. There was no problem of me just going out and playing on the street, or it wasn't like you were on the steps watching me when I was even 8 or 9 or whatever. I feel like I was perhaps part of that last generation of, free range kids. You go out and you do what you want. And then as you get a bit older, suddenly the Game Boys come in and the PlayStations come in, and then the internet comes in and the phones come in. But before everyone had a cell phone, it wasn't necessary to always be in contact. It was just presumed that kids are going to be kids and they're going to do what they want to do, and they're going to be home for dinner and everything's okay.
And a perfect example of that is Halloween. So Halloween was a huge deal when we were kids. We didn't have a lot of candy in our house, and this was kind of our night. Whatever we got, we could savor, we could, eat it in 3 days or a month. So on Halloween, when I was a kid, Daniel, the idea of parents accompanying you, that was way off. Like, that never happened. And I mean, never. You'd go out by yourself, you'd get candies, and now more than half the kids, oh gosh, probably 3/4 of the kids who knock on my door have a parent there. The other thing is, when we were kids in Halloween, the very best treats, bar none, were the homemade treats. I remember once in a blue moon, somebody would have a big plate of fudge cut into squares, or she'd made brownies. Now, honey, the parents would throw homemade treats straight into the garbage, wouldn't they? Again, You're talking about your
Mm.
neighbors. You're talking about people who live around you. And you would throw that homemade treat straight into the garbage.
I would maybe push back just a bit and say I'm sure there are some families who would still eat those homemade treats. But I think you're right that like the general feel would be not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. It's like the culture has shifted
Yeah.
away from that trust of strangers to a place of maybe a bit less trust in strangers.
Mhm. And don't get me wrong, and I'll say this to your viewers too, I'm not judging parents who accompany their kids to Halloween. I'm not judging parents who say, I better to be safe than sorry. Not at all. It's merely an observation, life as I see it and life as I remember it.